What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you tuning into another edition of On the Ball podcast. I mean, who said the NBA, is going to take some time? Let us celebrate the Thunder. Think about summer league and everything. No, free agency has been crazy. This is probably the most I've been following Shams Charania on Twitter. Not gonna lie, I was refreshing that like every 2 seconds, and he always had something to kind of break news on. Still miss Woj a little bit, but Sham's doing his thing. So we're gonna talk about that. Got a little bit of NFL. We're gonna talk about obviously free agency is gonna take up most of the show. I know Brett, you're gonna have a lot to say as your team was active. Whether it was good active or not, we'll obviously get your thoughts on that. But how are you doing tonight? Despite what the Bucks might be doing.
I'm doing. Today's a good day. It is my mom's birthday today, so I can't be too bad. Happy birthday, mama.
Happy birthday to her. Yeah.
Kind of just everything else. I'm pretty terrible, but we'll get into that. Don't worry, we'll get into that.
Right. I mean, look, as a Celtics fan, seeing some of the reactions to the Celtics moves have been kind of hilarious to me. But like you said, we'll get into that here in a little bit. Let's go ahead and start with the Steelers, the Dolphins. The Dolphins get Darren Waller out of the recording studio, back onto the football field. Like, what do you make with what those two teams are doing? And if you guys don't know who are watching or might be listening, the Steelers sent out Micah Fitzpatrick. They get Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey in return. Then the Dolphins swing a deal with the Giants because the Giants still own Darren Waller's rights to bring Darren Waller in. So Darren Waller will replace Jonnu Smith's production and I guess Minka, Jalen Ramsey, whatever. What do you make of all of it? Does it move the needle for you with either team in any way?
I actually like it for I'll break it into two different transactions because that's essentially what it kind of was. The trade itself I actually kind of like for both sides. I think Minka needed a change of scenery. People talk about him like he's still an all-pro caliber player. He hasn't been that in 2 years. And he's still a great player, but I think that it was time for a shakeup. And Jalen Ramsey, he's still a very good player. I don't think he's an all-pro caliber player either, but I think we're swapping two very good secondary pieces and adding Jonnu Smith. I think that's absolutely needed for the Steelers. They needed pretty much anybody they need somebody that can catch a football over the middle of the field. And I think Jonnu Smith is a great option for that. They've been relying on Pat Freiermuth, who I just think is a below average tight end. So I think getting someone like Smith who can catch balls for them over the middle and, kind of help complement their run game and, receivers a little bit, I think that's great. So I think that's a win-win for both sides. And getting Darren Waller is maybe the most irrelevant thing I have heard today. The last time we saw this man, he quit on the Giants. He quit on the Raiders. So who's to say that he's going to play for like 4 weeks and quit on the Dolphins? So in terms of the first set of moves, I actually think it's a good move for both sides. I think there's a lot of guys who needed a change of scenery, and Smith wanted to get paid. And Darren Waller, let's just hope he can play ball better than he can rap.
I think and I think the quitting aspect with Darren Waller is interesting, especially when you look at the Dolphins, where Jalen Ramsey, there was talks about him being moved for a while. They finally find a partner for him. Then there's like rumblings about Tyreek Hill could be moved. You have to think it's like going to be an important season for Mike McDaniel. And now Darren Waller gets thrown into that. You got the questions about the O-line. You have Tua. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to think about the Dolphins this upcoming season because it could be a season where Tua misses games. McDaniel forgets how to coach once again like he did last season, and it completely implodes on them. And we see like wholesale changes next season, or Tua stays upright. Maybe they sneak in. Well, maybe they stick around the wild card race or something like that. Like I have no idea. I think more so the prior where I kind of see it kind of imploding, but you never know. It's the NFL. Crazy.
I think Mike McDaniel is fired by week 12. I think this season's going to be an
Yeah.
unmitigated disaster for Miami, and McDaniels is not lasting the full season.
Yeah, I kind of seen it leaning that way, especially if Tua misses time again like last year. Like you see the games where Tua's under center versus Tyler Huntley, you would think they were coached by completely different guys. Like McDaniel had no clue how to game plan for Tyler Huntley, who's a vet in this league, but Tua, the offense looks more explosive. I mean, I guess we'll see if Tyreek Hill sticks around or if he gets moved at some point. I don't know. But look, the NFL still making a little bit of noise, even though it is NBA offseason. But one more thing NFL-wise before we do move on. I was looking around, and I found a Fox Sports list. You know, those of you watching or whatever, you guys can kind of chime in on this as well. They ranked every starting quarterback, once again, post Rodgers signing with the Steelers. First question to you, where do you think they ranked out of 32 Aaron Rodgers on the Steelers?
Let me guess. Probably somewhere between like 15 to 20. I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to say 17.
Well, you think a lot highly of him than Fox Sports does.
Oh,
Fox Sports put him at 26.
Ooh.
And the quarterbacks around him, brace yourself for this one. Let's go. The quarterback right behind him, Michael Penix, is 27.
Yuck. Okay.
25, just ahead of him, Justin Fields.
No.
What's going on, Kerm? Steelers somewhere in the middle. Well, like I said, they're 26th.
This is like a fun game. I'll tell you where I'd probably rank Rodgers, but he's ahead of Fields and Penix.
I mean, the guys behind him, I feel like you'd probably be okay with that. Who do you think is number 32?
Tyler Shuck?
This might actually surprise you too, but go ahead.
Is it Tyler Shuck?
It is not. And Tyler Shuck is on this list as the starting quarterback for the Saints.
Who's worse than Tyler Shuck? It's not going to be Daniel Jones.
Nope. They actually list Anthony Richardson as the Colts quarterback.
Oh, okay.
We know that's not going to happen.
Who's 32?
Joe Flacco.
Okay, yeah, no. Joe's washed, but he's not going to be the worst quarterback in the NFL.
I mean, Tyler Shuck is 31, but yeah, I'd agree. I would not put Joe Flacco below him. Then you have Cam Ward, rookie, we get it. Russell Wilson, Anthony Richardson, Michael Penix, Aaron Rodgers. Then slightly ahead of him, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young, Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams, and Drake May. That's 20 to 32 right there.
I mean, I think maybe Williams and May, but at the same time, the other guys, like, I haven't really seen these other guys put together as good of seasons as Rodgers down here. So, and that's so tough. Like, Rodgers is old, but even like his down year last year, he won an absolute heater in the last couple weeks, in the last like 10 weeks, and you could argue that they were like special teams away from making the playoffs because that was an absolute house of horrors. Yeah. So I think Rodgers is, he's obviously older. He is washed relative to who he was in his prime. But some of these names I think are also just disrespectful.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not the biggest Rodgers guy, but I would not have guessed 26, especially Trevor Lawrence types ahead of him. No, I wouldn't do that. So I guess top 20. I guess stop me when you hear a crazy name. Geno Smith 19. Tua's at 18.
Oh,
Sam Darnold 17.
that's awful.
CJ Stroud 16.
Okay,
Brock
the
Purdy
upside's there.
15. Bo Nix 14. 13. Jordan Love. What do you think about that?
That seems low, but
Okay.
this means like Dak's ahead of him. You can miss me with that.
At 12, I'm sure you'll have a reaction to this. JJ McCarthy.
Oh, fuck off. No, he's not. I get it. JJ McCarthy is in this like great position for a rookie quarterback, but we're gonna put Cam Ward at 30 because he's a rookie quarterback. But JJ McCarthy's just the 12th best quarterback spawning in. I get it. He has a lot better weapons than Cam Ward, but we haven't seen him yet. And we're gonna put him at 12, like a top 12.
They're saying from McCarthy might be 2023 Brock Purdy.
Awesome. And I might walk out of my house and Jennifer Lopez might want to date me tomorrow, but the odds are neither of those are happening.
I'll just let you know with Fox Sports. 11 is Dak Prescott, which you already said you knew Dak was ahead of Jordan Love.
I would take Jordan Love over both those guys. I'm okay with Rodgers between 15 or 20. Now I'm seeing who I would take Jordan Love over.
Okay. Top 10 now. Number 10, Justin Herbert.
I would take Love over Herbert.
Okay. Number 9, Baker Mayfield.
That's tough. I think Jordan Love gives you a higher ceiling. I would still take him. I think Baker puts up more gaudier stats, but you know what? I would still take Love over Baker.
Okay. Baker had 4,500 passing yards.
Oh yeah, he had some numbers.
Season. Yeah,
I love Baker.
Yeah. 8, Matt Stafford. 7 is Jared Goff.
I would probably so I would take Love over Jared Goff, but I still think Matthew Stafford's a better quarterback than him.
Okay. So 6, Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels is interesting because the answer is probably just Jaden Daniels. I'm also very picky about rookies. Like, I think Jaden Daniels is a top 10. I just need to see it for another year, but I would take Jaden Daniels over Jordan Love. But I do want to see if Jaden Daniels can replicate what he did last year for another year. So,
and I think that's perfectly fair.
Ranking for
now that there's tape on him and everything.
Oh yeah, no, ranking for this year, I think Jaden Daniels is fine. I think he earned that.
All right, so now we're in the top 5. 5, Jalen Hurts, which out of some of the lists I've seen, Jalen Hurts in the top 5 is kind of rare, but I think we could both agree coming off the Super Bowl, it makes a lot of sense.
I love it. I think that Jalen Hurts gets criminally disrespected on most of these lists. People act like he gets carried, but in all reality, he's very well what makes that team stir on offense. So between him and Saquon, like if it was just Saquon, the Eagles wouldn't be as unstoppable. But it's the addition of Hurts' legs too and arm that are what make that whole offense tick. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right, so we know the Big Four. How do you think Fox Sports put the Big Four?
Fox Sports put the Big Four? Let's see. I'm guessing Burrow at 4.
Okay.
Allen at 3, Jackson 2, Mahomes 1.
So you got 2 out of the 4 right. At number 4 is Lamar.
Oh.
3, Josh Allen. 2, Joe Burrow. 1, Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. I think I'm just glad they got the top 5 right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, with a lot of the other stuff on the list, they got top 5. I guess you give them some credit for that.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm happy that they put I'm just happy they put Jalen Hurts in there. I see too many lists where it's like, oh, Justin Herbert top 5. I'll like keep hypothetical Herbert out of my top 5 list. Like, come on now.
Yeah, didn't Chris Sims have Hurts at like 10 or something
Yeah,
like that? Yeah. We
it
know
was
Chris
bad.
Sims is a, great NFL mind, of course. But okay, just want to see. And those of you in the chat, Brett and I were talking before the show. We're gonna do our own quarterback list next week, and we would love to have input from you all as well. So make sure you do come back next week. We'll, like I said, rank all 32 live on the show with your input as well as Brett and ours, and we'll see. We'll give the people the real rankings because a lot of these people got their own agendas and stuff. So
yeah. I would never rank Jordan Love as the best quarterback in the league. No, I'm kidding.
Right. I wouldn't put Lamar at 32. Like, please. I would never do that.
Drake May 1, Lamar 32. Excellent.
Exactly. All right. So, look, we got the show kicked off with some NFL, but let's get into the NBA because that's what everybody's been paying attention to the past couple of days now. And there was, obviously, I'm not going to talk about every move because I know Jory might be in the comments. We're not going to talk Jake LaRavia to the Lakers. We'll save that for a couple of weeks down the road. I'm going to look at some of the bigger moves that happened and get your thoughts on it. Those in the chat as well, feel free to chime in. Let's start with the big extension. SGA, 4 years, $285 million. Now, you don't have to bring out your calculator. That is $71.25 million a year if you break it down to 4 years. I mean, I know the cap's going up and everything. Supermax is what it is for the players. You get your money. I mean, I'm going to assume you're going to feel like it's well warranted. Like the man's just coming off of MVP and Finals MVP. And could the Thunder, though, with this kind of extension, not necessarily come to regret it because they have a lot of guys they have to pay, but could this be an extension that might get in the way of obviously keeping some key pieces to that Thunder team?
I think eventually, but the thing is that team is so young, you're still not going to have to worry about that for a while. Like, I don't think they'd have to worry about, for example, the repeater tax for like another 4 years still. So, will it get in the way eventually? Yeah, sure. I mean, that's kind of what the aprons are meant to do. The funny part is, by the time half these guys are up for an extension, it'll probably be about time for a new CBA. But
that's also true. Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to kind of watch. But no, I don't think they'll regret it at all. And the thing with this is, when you sign a contract extension, for me, I could care less what you did in the last 4 years. Obviously, if you sign a 4-year contract, I'm more concerned about what you're going to do in the next 4. Mm-hmm. And looking at SGA, obviously, he's just entering his prime. He's still young. He just won an MVP. Like, I think that this is a great extension, the one that they had to do, and I don't think it's one that they're going to regret. And they have a ton of draft picks where, guess what, they can keep adding around the edges on cost-friendly contracts. And the thing with the Thunder, too, is half these guys, if they need to get rid of them, they're all positive assets. They can flip them for maybe a couple seconds or maybe even a late first. So, to me, they put themselves in a great spot where they won't regret this decision. And even if they have to lose some pieces, like they can flip them for, multiple picks and turn around and get new pieces. So Sam Presti has built something really special here.
Yeah. What's going on, Matthew? I feel like that's a new name to the show. They have crazy draft picks. They absolutely do. Like they are well prepared if they lose a guy to replace him with somebody, like you said, cost effective. I guess the second question would be for SGA and the extension, what does he have to do maybe to justify it? Does he need another title? Does he need another MVP? Like, what does he have to do now with this kind of look? There's gonna be a lot of pressure that comes with this kind of price tag next to your name.
I think as long as he continues to play at the caliber of time that he's doing now, there's only one MVP to go around, right? And I think as long as he plays for the next 4 years at that All NBA first team level,
okay,
and he's like in those best in the world conversations, well worth your money. So I think that he's somebody that can easily do it. But I'm not even looking for an MVP. Just give me maybe another finals run, maybe even like 4 deep playoff runs. Just keep playing at the level that you do, like your best in the world MVP level for the next 4 years, and yeah, it's absolutely going to be well worth the money.
Okay. So Matthew said, I think they get 1 to 2 more years before they really have to worry, and I think that's where we're kind of in uncharted ground with the NBA. Everybody's looking at what's going on with the Celtics and them kind of like purging talent. They're basically walking so everybody can kind of run later on, because the Celtics are like the first championship caliber team that has to deal with the real implications of this CBA. I mean, yeah, the Suns jacked up their cap, but they stunk. So it was like, yeah, nobody cares. But I do think the Thunder are in a better place than the Celtics to deal with it because of those draft picks and everything like that, where it'll be interesting to see in a couple of years how they navigate, like, if J-Dub and Chet and all these guys have big money deals, like, what do they do? I think that's going to be fascinating. I know a lot of people hate the second apron and all that stuff. I do think it makes the league more interesting. And that's kind of Adam Silver's job, but we'll see. Matthew also says if he plays an elite level, I think the Thunder are built to win again. If not a chip, they'll put a fight. Yeah. I feel like if they don't win another title, if they're like constantly a conference finals team, even if they make another finals and lose, I feel like you definitely would consider this a good deal for the Thunder. And plus, it was something that they have to do. He earned the Supermax. You're not going to let him go somewhere. So the power of opportunity. And with the cap going up, somebody's going to end up making more than SGA at some point. And we'll just look at that deal and be like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, say the cap's going up. They're not even into the luxury tax until next year, even with the extension. Yeah. And like I said, by the time we're starting to worry about them hitting a repeater tax or anything like that, even Sam Presti said it himself. It'll literally be a brand new CBA by then. So it'll be interesting to see how long they can keep this team together, because by the time you start finally seeing the potential of them breaking up, maybe the second apron will be abolished if it gets that much pushback, or I don't know. But that's just kind of my point. Like, people are trying to predict the downfall already almost of the Thunder. Like, oh, well, they're going to have to break up the team. Maybe not. We're going to have to give it. Like, I'm sure they'll make some changes on the margins, but in terms of, any drastic moves, I wouldn't worry about that till we see the new CBA, honestly.
So do you think the league needs to do away with the aprons? Or are you fine with kind of this forced player movement and all that?
I'm always going to hate the aprons because aprons kind of pushed us to, kind of led us down a path that we acquired Kyle Kuzma, so I'll forever hate the aprons. But no, I think it's just kind of stupid. I'm not a big fan of the aprons and the first apron and the second apron. I kind of like the old CBA where you just kind of let players go where they want and don't necessarily force teams to break up.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not a big fan of the aprons. But hey, if you really like player movement, then these aprons are for you. But I always love seeing continuity, and that's kind of my problem at the end of the day with the aprons. They punish you even if you draft well. So if you're going to keep the aprons, I would love to see them like reward teams for drafting well. Like, hey, if you draft well, maybe your max extension only costs like 70% of the, against the cap. So that's maybe my biggest pet peeve. Like, I love seeing continuity. I love seeing those teams that just gel really well together. It just doesn't really happen now. It's not really going to happen under this new aprons.
I think you made a good point there, because I understood kind of the purpose of the aprons. It was to, stop free agency with like the biggest guys going all to the same place. That's what the aprons were to prevent. But like you said, if you are a Sam Presti and you're really good with drafting talent, that's kind of supposed to be what you want to reward in a league like this. You putting in that work, scouting, finding, diamonds in the rough and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to building your teams through free agency. So I would like to see kind of what you said. If it's a draft pick, it's weighted a little less than if it's just strictly free agency. And maybe that's something that we get. I do think the apron thing probably stays because Silver is loving the parody. I mean, we love the NFL for its parody. So it should work in the NBA. But I agree with you. Like, fans are going to hate hearing second apron over the next coming like couple of years, and why teams can't stick together.
No, but
yeah, go ahead.
But the aprons and stuff literally like just started. Was it this year, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the Celtics are kind of the test case for navigating around the second apron.
And this is kind of why I really don't care about them, because we can talk about parity, but there was parity right before the aprons came into place anyway, right? Like, before the aprons came into place, we had the Raptors, the Lakers, the Bucks, the Celtics, the Nuggets, Warriors. Like, we were having parity before. I think that's just kind of the skill level of the league going up. And the thing with your role players just seemingly getting better and better every year. Now, you're like 7th, 8th, and 9th man matter more than ever. So I don't think that these aprons are necessarily like, oh, well, they're the reason for parity, because we had like 5 different champions before the aprons even came into effect. So,
yeah.
So I would just love to see some adjustments, or at least adjust it to not punishing teams that draft well. Like, I think there definitely needs to be some changes under these aprons.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, Anthony is asked about your Bucks, so let's go there next. The Bucks obviously made news with waiving Damian Lillard, signing Miles Turner, and as Sham said, in order to sign Miles Turner, they had to waive Lillard to free up the money or whatever. The Bucks also made a lot of other moves, but most people are going to look at Turner, Lillard. You are the Bucks fan here. What are your thoughts on the trade-off of Turner for Lillard and the implications, obviously, of waiving him? I think to some fans that may not know, when you waive a guy, it's not like some magic wand and like, the contract just goes away. Like, the Bucks are going to have to pay Lillard the rest of his deal. It's just that it's spread out over 5 years. So I'm going to let you go ahead and speak on that.
If anybody who wants to know how I feel about that is, I just changed my nickname on here to Sad Bucks Fan. So that's kind of how I feel about it. It's pretty terrible, right? And that's nothing against Miles Turner, because I think Miles Turner's a great talent, and I think he's a clear upgrade over Brook Lopez. And I thought the contract that we got him on was more than fair, but to get him by the way of waiving and stretching Dame, who, like you kind of alluded to, we have to pay him $22 million over the next 5 years. Like, that is an absurd number to pay someone.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Your only hope at this point, if you're the Bucks, is the cap keeps rising, that it hopefully negates and you're able to add some talent around Giannis. But in all reality, it felt like the best path for the Bucks was because there's always a realistic chance, and there's even reports that came out after he got hurt and now that Dame could be back before the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the best plot for the Bucks would have been bring back Dame, and if he shows he still has something left and you want to get rid of him, flip him when he's an expiring contract. You would have had a market for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you could have done like a soft rebuild because he would have been expiring. Kuzma would have been expiring. So maybe you can, flip those guys for, you can flip Dame for assets. You can, get rid of Kuzma finally. But now with waiving Dame, that just kind of nukes your, 3 to 5 year window. Like now, even if you resign Giannis, he's going to get even more expensive. Turner obviously is going to be going up in money. Gary Trent, we can resign him next year for like 4 years, $70 million. So that's a big pay raise. And we're going to have like a quarter of the cap tied up be just between, next year, pretty much just between Giannis, Dame, who's not even on the team anymore, Kuzma, who I wish wasn't on the team, and Turner. Like, that is not a wise way to, spend your resources. This is building a team with one hand tied behind your back. This is like maybe the biggest panic move I have ever seen since Detroit traded for Allen Iverson. Like, it is an absurd move, which will make us better in the short term. Like, I think this gives us a little 2-year window where maybe you can do something. But I think we'd be lying to ourselves if we looked at Turner. Like, we look at Turner, good. We look at Giannis, awesome. Problem is, who's at the helm? Do you really think that Doc's going to lead us to the promised land? Do we think that Kuzma's going to regain his form? One of the biggest problems of Giannis ball is role players forgetting how to shoot come playoff time. We just watched Turner shoot 12% in a final series. Like, there's so many things that they're banking on to go right that historically for the Bucks have just gone absolutely wrong. I think, we'll be an upgraded team. We'll be a better team than last year. I don't doubt the short-term ramifications of it. But if we're not a title contender, if we're not a winning team, then guess what? Next year we have no picks. We're going to have to, give Trent a raise if we want to keep him around. Giannis, if he wants to stay, he's going to be looking for a new contract, and, that's going to be completely up to him. And obviously we're going to be paying $22 million for Damian Lillard to, play somewhere else. So I think that this was just an absolutely disastrous panic move, which for the Bucks, they were just kind of like, well, the short-term benefit, which it does have a short-term benefit of the Bucks being better this year. But, man, that long-term future is just now just absolutely murky and kind of nuked. So I am not a fan of waiving Dame. I thought the best thing to do would be, if you want to move him, wait till next year when he's an expiring deal. So I thought this was an absolute panic move and it's just an absolute disaster class for John Horst. And it almost feels like that their plan is to go all in this year. And if it doesn't work this year, then Giannis is probably going to, want to go somewhere else anyway, because that's the only way you make this move. You don't make this move with the next 3 years in mind around Giannis or the next 5 years. You make a move like this for the next 1 to 2 years around Giannis, which 2 years from now, ironically, is when he's a free agent. So to me, this was a move that was predicated right on that Giannis timeline. And we're signing all of our guys to 1 year plus, player options, which they'll surely decline, in team options. To me, it feels like there's a real risk of, if we don't get it done this year, things get really murky next year. So for the Bucks' sake and my sanity's sake, we better be NBA champs at the end of this year. Otherwise, I might have to bring back my John Horst rant from the deadline when he traded Chris, because he's looking like a total idiot who doesn't know what he's doing. It sucks because he's made some great moves. I love the Gary Trent signing. Like, that was great to get him back for that. I thought the Bobby Portis extension was fair. And even like someone like Gary Harris, who I only hate that move because I know Doc's going to give all of AJ Green's minutes to him, but
yeah.
And then he kind of goes out and does this like nuclear level panic move. And to me, that just kind of sours the entire thing. So all I'm saying is, you better put that championship caliber team now, because when this team gets more expensive next year and you don't have any picks to replenish them, you're just kind of screwed. So, like I said, I'm not a fan of doing this at all.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously had to be a tough decision to make, and Dame is 30. Well, he'll be 35, I believe, in like a couple of weeks. With the injury, maybe that played into it. The fact that Turner was out there and Turner didn't just re-sign with the Pacers, maybe that was part of the reasoning. But yeah, only time will tell how much of a panic move this actually was. But I guess speaking of some other teams that made some significant moves, I believe, even some under the radar. A favorite team of the show, the Orlando Magic, finally got a point guard. They went out, they got Tyus Jones. And I only say that because, look, you've been on here for a couple of seasons now talking about how good the Magic are. I'm a fan of what they've got going on. Banchero, love watching him, love his game. Is Tyus Jones the type of point guard that could probably maybe pull this together and get the Magic finally into serious consideration in the East? We already know Halliburton, Tatum are out, so you expect the Pacers and the Celtics to take a bit of a drop. When the Magic were healthy last year, they were a top 4 team in the East. So is Tyus Jones the type of point guard that the Magic need right now?
I think he's a good backup. The thing with Tyus Jones is if Tyus Jones is your piece to tie it all together, then you're probably not as close to contending as you think. But I do think he brings an aspect to the Magic of, shooting. And in the playoffs, a lot of their issues, we saw them turn the ball over quite a bit, and Tyus Jones is a safe bet to not turn the ball over. He's very good at taking care of the basketball, and he can shoot the three. So they'll have to, work around his defensive issues a little bit. But I think offensively, it's a great fit. I think he addresses a couple different needs for them, and I think he's a great piece to add to the puzzle. Like, it's very clear that all these moves we're going to get better shooting around Paulo and Franz, and I think they're going to bank on those two's playmaking just becoming exponentially better, getting real shooters around them, and I think that's a fair bet to make. I think they're a lot better playmakers than people give them credit for. Just when you surround them with shooters that couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat, it's kind of hard to see it. So I think that the Magic are going to be a much better team, and I think Tyus Jones can absolutely help with that.
Yeah, look, last year, their point guard rotation, you had like Cole Anthony, Anthony Black, Corey Joseph, Jalen Suggs. Suggs got hurt, so obviously you need Suggs to have a healthy season. But if Suggs and Jones are now your top 2 point guards, I guess you'll take that over Cole Anthony and Anthony Black. So, it's obviously contingent on Suggs. Suggs has to be healthy, but yeah, I don't hate what the Magic did with getting Tyus Jones. Let's look at the Hawks. The Hawks made a bunch of signings. Trae Young seemingly pushed for Luke Kennard and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Walker was acquired through a sign-and trade where I believe Minnesota gets a second-round pick out of it as well. I guess looking at the moves the Hawks made, do you view them as much better than last year, or do you have some questions about some of the players they brought in? What's going on, Ghost? Oh, not a Magic fan, I see. Okay.
I think the Hawks are having a great offseason. I think they're, killing it. One thing about Trae Young is he's very good at getting his guys open looks. He was the best in the league at it at times. Like, he's very good at doing that. So I think offensively they'll be great. I can't wait to see the next step from I have trouble saying his name, but Zachary, I can't wait to see his next step. I struggle saying his last name. I think
I was going to Reese Shea. I don't know if that's correct.
Yeah,
that's
no. I always seem to like muck up his last name, so half the time I just call him
Yes.
Zachary.
Yeah.
I feel like the X factor for the Hawks though is Jalen Johnson. I feel like he's
Yes.
the guy that ties it all together. The problem is Jalen Johnson's missed between 25 and 50 games pretty much every year he's been there. So I think that if you get a Jalen Johnson that can, be a sub all-star caliber player, shoot lights out from three, and, play some great defense, be that really solid 3 and D guy who can attack closeouts, like, I think you have something there. But if Jalen Johnson misses another 50 games and there's no chemistry there, this team's ceiling's a lot lower. So I like what they've done, but I think a lot of the season is going to rely on if Jalen Johnson can be healthy.
All right, look, those of you watching right now, mark this down. 7:48 p.m. on July 1st. I like what the Hawks are doing. I will actually watch Hawks games next season. I feel like, look, I kind of had a mini boycott on my own because I wasn't big with Trae Young in the group that they had. And I was like, until they move Trae Young, I'm not watching. But like Kerm said, Ricochet, I feel like at the end of last season, kind of came into his own. Like you're excited to see the second season, what he can do. I'm a big Jalen Johnson guy. And like you said, Brett, he definitely needs to stay healthy because they were a much better team last year when he was healthy. Then as soon as he got hurt, it kind of turned into some of the reasons why I don't like watching the Hawks when Trae Young kind of is obviously the alpha guy. So I do like some of the moves, like the Porzingis deal. He's another guy. He's going to have to stay healthy. He's going to have to prove the illness is behind him. But the Hawks have been smart. And I'm not going to lie. They are – you have to watch the whole game. And I'll go one further, Anthony. I will even do a couple of watch-alongs for the Hawks. So that way I'll have to watch the whole game based off of how this offseason is going right now. I will mix them in with my Celtics, but I will do Hawks games. And I'm not even lying about that. Like, Dyson Daniels, I feel like he obviously gives you that, defensive presence where you can kind of hide Trae Young a little bit. I mean, teams will still search him out, but it makes it a little easier. I just feel like I feel like they're taking kind of the Pacers approach to this where they're going to become a deep squad that, guys they bring off the bench will have defined roles and will be effective in them. And look, the Magic won that division last season at 41-41. I don't know. The Hawks challenge for it, even though I do think the Magic will be better this year as well. But it's now a 2-team race. The Heat, don't talk to me about the Heat. Hornets, we already know what they're about. And Washington, sure. Good luck figuring out what they're doing. You got to watch it. Kerm, I told you, I'm watching Celtics, but I will watch the Hawks. So if the Celtics are not playing, I will watch Hawks full games. If they're different times, I may watch both, whatever. But yeah, they look like they're turning the corner and becoming a smart franchise. Okay, Anthony. I mean, I don't really care about the Hawks either, but they were one of the active teams. We had to talk about them. Don't shoot the messenger here.
Where's LeBron?
Now, okay. Anthony brings up LeBron. Let's let people know. LeBron, the great team player that he is, opted into his $50-something million deal. And I love how the minute he does it, I'm seeing stories about, well, where should LeBron finish his career? Where should the Lakers trade him? And I'm like, we're going to do this again? Like, why? I guess first question. And also kind of the side story is like Savannah supposedly wants him to retire in like a year or so. I don't know. But what % chance do you give that this upcoming season is LeBron's last season in the NBA?
I think there's a good chance of it. Like, probably going to cop out and just do 50. Like, LeBron could keep playing till he's like 107 if he really wants to. Like, he's developed the shooting enough. He's such a great playmaker. Like, he's not fully reliant on that athleticism anymore. Like, it still obviously aids him a ton in, creating his own shots. So, like, LeBron could still be a very good role player, though, even once that goes away. That being said, I think there's a very good chance he retires this year. Clearly, the Lakers are, kind of starting to shift towards, building around Luka. So I don't see him going anywhere. I think he's probably, very happy in Los Angeles. He's right there near his home. A lot of his, businesses apparently are over in that area. So I think on the court, you get to play with Luka, make your life easier. You have a full off season to, completely gel with each other. Off the court, I wouldn't see a reason why he would want to leave. So I'm going to go maybe he retires 50-50. I'll go there's a 50-50 chance he retires.
Okay. I mean, I think that's fair to kind of stick in the middle there. Anthony says he should finish it in Cleveland. Don't do that to Cleveland a third time, but I see what you're saying. Hope that he doesn't go to the Warriors. Okay. Just staying in the league until his other son. Yeah. That's all we need. But that's probably a good part of the motivation for him, for sure.
If he's trying to go somewhere to win a ring or whatever his objective is, he's probably wants it kind of like what KD got traded to. He probably has to go somewhere where the team's kind of up and coming.
Yeah.
Like, I love, obviously, the Rockets, obviously, they're probably not going to deal for LeBron too. But a team like, obviously, you'd have to jump to an elite team, though, as well, because you don't have a lot of time with them. So that's like, maybe in a year, see if you can do like a sign and trade to like the Thunder if they want to move on from iHeart or something. Like, that's not going to happen, but it's LeBron wanting to contend for a title, if that's true, which is ironic after he gave that whole ring culture speech literally last week.
Yeah.
If that's his end game, then he has to try to force his way to a real contender. I said a real contender, not Dallas, but he has to force his way to a real contender. So I don't think that's his end game. I don't think that's his objective. If he's a man of his word, and last week what he said was true, I think he'll just kind of chill and let his career end in Los Angeles.
Now, Anthony does bring up Dallas. I did see a story where there was 4 teams they thought LeBron could end up on. Dallas was one. I believe it was Cleveland, Dallas, Golden State, and the Knicks, because obviously the Knicks have to enter into the conversation. So you said 50% he might retire. So let's look at the other 50% of your thought process on LeBron. If he doesn't finish his career with the Lakers, where do you see him finishing it? Because we know LeBron's not going to be the type to finish in some low-key kind of situation. He probably would finish it somewhere like New York, Madison Square Garden, all that attention. I'm going to throw out there, it would be kind of interesting if you went to like the crosstown rival in the Clippers and tried to, could you imagine the ego move? He goes to the Clippers and tries to deliver them a title after, have they ever won a title? I don't even know.
Nope.
Like, that could be something I could see LeBron doing his final year. But, so yeah, looking at the other 50%, what part of that do you think he finishes with the Lakers as opposed to finishing somewhere else? And if somewhere else, where would you like to see the story come to an end? I agree with that, Anthony. LeBron and Harden would be theater.
I think the answer to that is probably just the I think the answer to that's probably the Knicks. LeBron likes to be in the spotlight. He likes the attention. And the Knicks have a ton of, like, a good amount of big salaries. Like, you're going to have to pay Mikal if you want to keep him. You're going to have OG, Cat. Like, there's options if you want to move on from LeBron. Like, why, if you're the Knicks and you really want, the attention, okay. Maybe you consider doing, Mikal for LeBron swap next summer. I'm not saying that will happen, but I think the Knicks have the spotlight he wants, the big market he wants, and the contracts to match him. So, and the thing with LeBron, you're not going to get more than like maybe a first out of it. Like, he's old, he's about to retire, so they actually might just have enough picks and everything to make it work. So,
Mhm.
if I had to guess, LeBron loves the big markets, it seems. So he'd probably go to like the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. What's going on, Jory? I'll be Jory just in time. Talking LeBron, you pop in. Yeah, I feel like New York would probably be a place. Now the Dallas part of it, I could see him doing some, going there, final year with like Kyrie to, bring it kind of full circle with the whole Cleveland connection, that whole storyline, and maybe AD again, like I guess. But I also think if it's gonna be his final year, he's not gonna do the Tom Brady, where like Tom Brady played his final year and then was like, oh yeah, I'm kind of done now. LeBron's gonna do it Aaron Rodgers style. Do some interview and be like, this will be it, because there's nothing more that LeBron, the attention man, would love than every city he goes to making a big deal about him, going there for the last time. So until we hear that announcement, I mean, I could kind of agree with you that 50% chance this is it for him.
And you know what's funny? Where I think the hard part about for example, about LeBron, for example, when we're talking the Mavericks, is how would you like to get him? And what I mean by that is, so for example, I matched the salaries of LeBron using Dallas Mavericks. You can get there, keeping Clay, AD. You're keeping AD and Kyrie, but you're trading Clay, PJ Washington, Caleb Martin, Najee Marshall, and Omax just to kind of gap the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my other problem trying to send him to Dallas and why I don't think that team is contenders. Like in theory, a Kyrie, Cooper Flag, AD, LeBron quadruple team, they're great.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, like Nico
Where's
Harrison might be coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Like we were just talking about how in this league, your 6th, 7th, and 8th man are now so important.
True.
And at that point, like they don't have a 6th, 7th, or 8th man. Like they have their starting 5, which would probably blow everybody out of the water, and then their bench would get demolished by 30. So like, is that really enough to win a title? Or are you ready to part with maybe like a Kyrie to get to LeBron? But LeBron would probably want to play with Kyrie and AD. So it's just, I think you give up too much to try to match salaries to bring LeBron in, unless you're adding like a 3rd and a 4th team. So it would be quite interesting to see how they would go about it.
Right. And, Jory put, I'm tired of La Flop and LaCry. And Kurum, I'm over talking about LeBron. Kurum, I'm there with you. I mean, look, I said this on Passion and Precision, looking at Amazon and NBC getting into the business of the NBA. Please don't do what ESPN did and turn your coverage into LeBron Central. That would be the worst thing for those two to do. Like, highlight other talent. So I agree with you. All right. We talked about SGA's extension. Jaren Jackson Jr. got paid as well. 5 years, $240 million. That man is getting paid like a legit #1 superstar in this league. The Grizzlies also made a lot of other moves, like Ty Jerome. They re-signed Aldama and other stuff like that. How do you feel about the Jaren Jackson extension? Do you think he has earned it? Well, obviously he's earned it since he was eligible for it, but do you think it was smart for the Grizzlies to, sign him to that kind of max deal?
I think it was smart. I think you kind of had to. You clearly made the choice which one of your, big 3 you wanted to get rid of when they traded Desmond Bane to Memphis.
True.
So you made the choice. You were building around Jaren Jackson Jr. And Jaren Jackson was playing at an all-NBA level, before the injury, and he was literally 1 vote away from being an all-NBA level player. So I think it was a smart choice you have to keep him around. And because if you lose him and Bane, then you might as well just trade John, can nuke the entire process. So I thought that, this is a move I think everybody saw coming away, and, it's kind of a formality. So I'm happy for Jaren, and I think it's a move that the Memphis Grizzlies had to make.
Okay. So you think they're going to operate with Ja and Jaren going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't think they're quite ready to throw in the towel quite yet on, Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson. So I think they'll keep trying to do draft and develop around them. They brought in KCP from the, Desmond Bain trade. I think they'll try to, revive his career. He's obviously coming off a very down year in Orlando. So it'll be interesting. I think it'll be, at least give it, Jory kind of stole my thought process here. I think they'll give it like 2 more seasons, and if it's not working out then we might see a Josh trade or, Jaren. But as of right now, yeah, this was the right move to make.
Yeah, I mean, look, I feel like Jaren Jackson's a little more, cat than I want him to be, but he is a young big. He's been in the Defensive Player of the Year conversations. He can stretch the floor. I would like to see him work a little bit more on the low post game, but he, once again, opportunity was there. He's seizing it, so I'm not gonna be mad about them. What's going on, KSPN? What's up? I think Memphis is a team that, the leadership issues that they had last season, need to see them do better on that front. I think Ja needs to get away from the celebrations and just get back to being the player that he was, where he was seen as one of the top players in the league. Like, Ja is kind of becoming somewhat forgettable with each passing season. Well, outside of the fines and stuff, but I would like to see him get away from that and just ball. Stop with the IG live, which I guess he kind of stopped with, but stop with the grenades and all that kind of stuff. Just focus on the court and build Memphis back up to where they were just a few seasons ago.
And I think that's just always very possible, but it's all going to come down to him and how much he really wants it. Because if he can be that all NBA level player again, and Jaren, continues to play on an all NBA level, this could still be a very good Memphis Grizzlies team. But it's all going to come down to Ja Morant, and that if you're a Memphis Grizzlies fan, I think you have faith it can happen, but that's also got to be kind of a scary thought.
Yeah. Let's see. KSPN said Dame. Yeah, we talked about the Dame stuff before. We'll just say, Brett, Bucks fan, not a fan of the waving, but you do like the Turner signing. I was surprised that they decided to waive Dame, but every NBA offseason, you're gonna get some things that kind of throw you off guard, and that definitely was the one for this offseason. Anthony calls him Mr. Two Guns. Yes. Memphis should have never gotten rid of Brooks. Okay. That's an interesting take. All right. Go ahead.
I think it's a fine take. I mean, Dillon Brooks kind of gave him an edge defensively on the wing, on the wing spot that they haven't really been able to fill since. So, I do like Dillon Brooks. I think he got overhated in Memphis. I thought he really brought an edge that they haven't had since he left.
My only issue with him was he brought edge to the team. Then people questioned him on it, and then he didn't like the questioning. But I feel like it was probably a lot that came onto him really quickly. But I feel like since he got to Houston, he kind of embraced that kind of villain role that if he was probably better off with Memphis, maybe he was still there. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a bad take at all because he gave them defense. He'd hit the occasional three in the corner. He'd also have those nights where he'd be 0 for 8 from 3. You'd just be like, all right, Dillon, I get you're confident in yourself, but maybe not on this night. Let's see. Anthony brings up Cam Johnson of Denver. That's where I was going to go next. MPJ is a guy that I know when you were doing the watch songs with Mo, you guys are constantly talking about MPJ not doing enough in Denver. Jory and I, Passionate Precision, we talk about MPJ all the time. Denver moves him out. They go ahead and get Cam Johnson. They also, if you know, those of you may not have seen this, but they also bring Bruce Brown back. Who I feel like since Bruce Brown left, his career has gone like haywire. But looking at those two moves for Denver, you know, how much of an upgrade do you think Cam Johnson is to Porter Jr.?
I like it. I think the thing with Cam Johnson is, I think one thing that Michael Porter Jr. is, obviously he's a great 3-point volume shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Cam Johnson will fully be able to replicate the like volume of 3-point shots that Michael Porter could put down. Now, obviously, we can talk about the playoffs, but he was dealing with the shoulder injury that obviously clearly hampered his, 3-point shooting. But I do think that, you get some better ball movement, some IQ. I think Cam Johnson at the end of the day is just a better connective piece. He's a more willing passer, and he's still an elite shooter, and he's ready to play some solid defense. He's that guy that's, just very solid, versatile, all-around player. Good at a lot of things, maybe not necessarily great at a lot of things, but he can give you a little bit of everything. So I like the aspect for Cam Johnson that I think he's just a more connective piece at the 3, and I think that's perfect because I think at times Michael Porter's, tunnel vision kind of really hurt them. He got the nickname "Never Swing the Rock" for a reason. So I do love the Cam Johnson signing, and I like the fact that they brought in a piece that'll be more of a connective piece.
Yeah, I feel like Cam Johnson is maybe going to be like a more consistent version of Porter Jr. from last season. And like you said, the shoulder injury obviously, hampered him a little bit. And ironically enough, they were in the same draft, so being traded for each other. And if you look at their numbers, there are some similarities, but I think numbers-wise, Porter Jr. looks like the better player, but I do think it's, opportunity. Cam Johnson wasn't playing with Jokic in Brooklyn. So you figure that's going to give him a bump in his effectiveness and his numbers as well. I did pull up both of them. Over their careers, they played basically the same amount of games. Porter Jr. is a 16-point per game guy. Cam Johnson's at 13 points. Porter Jr. 6.5 boards. Cam Johnson 4. Cam 2 assists. Porter Jr. 1.5. Field goals, Porter Jr. 50%, Cam 45. 3-point percentage, which I think will be probably a big thing in Denver. Porter was at 41. Cam was at 39. So it's a little bit of a dip with Cam as opposed to Porter Jr. But yeah, all in all, they are very similar players. So look, we kind of questioned some of the depth with Denver over the past couple of seasons, bringing Bruce Brown back. I guess we'll have to see what kind of role they put him back into and, incorporate him back with the team. Let's see.
Yeah, I thought it looked like the Denver Nuggets just clearly came into the offseason with one goal, and that's get Jokic some help offensively. Yeah. And I thought they did a great job of that, even with signings like Tim Hardaway Jr. I thought they went out and got guys that can, put the ball in the basket pretty, consistently. And I think that's, a great upgrade from what they had at times where sometimes it looked like Jokic was out there alone, him and Aaron Gordon just fighting for their lives. So,
yes,
I'm glad, especially Michael Porter post shoulder injury, it was a rough stretch, so I like the idea of going out and getting some more consistent shooting around Jokic.
I was actually looking to see if there was more moves that happened while we were on
I
here.
I will say the one of the moves I didn't like was a Clint Capella back to the Rockets.
That one's like universally hated.
That was bad, and I just think they overpaid for him. Like Clint Capella is like the most vet minimum signing that I
Mhm.
thought I saw coming from a mile away. The fact he got $7 million a year to me is wild.
Yeah.
Like I could take a steak, I could put it on the grill for like 5 days, and that thing still wouldn't be as cooked as Clint Capella looked last year with the Hawks. Like I do not know how he got $7 million. Like that was amazing to me. I universally I love what the Rockets have done this offseason,
Mhm.
but I think they way overpaid on Clint.
Yeah. Also, another move that kind of stood out, only because of in comparison to Miles Turner, Jakob Pertl re-signed in Toronto for 4 years, 104 million. Literally, I believe $3 million less overall than Miles Turner. That seems crazy. Like Jakob Pertl is that guy that every time a team needs a big, his name comes up around the trade deadline for whatever reason. I don't know about that one. CJ McCollum to the Wizards, I don't understand that. That's from Anthony. I don't understand the Wizards in general, so it seems fitting for them. Actually, I need to pull up their roster because their roster, like name recognition wise, is like, oh, okay. But then thinking about them next season, I don't know. But I will
No,
say moves that happened while I think we were on. Tim Hardaway Jr. signed a 1 year deal with the Nuggets as well. So once again, adding to the depth that they lost a couple of years ago, you now have Tim Hardaway Jr., who's a streaky shooter, but when he's on, he's like Michael Porter Jr. Some nights he'll frustrate you, but when he has it going, he's a pretty good guy out on the perimeter.
the Jakob Pertl extension made me so mad because like low key, I'm always looking for new teams to ball out with in 2K, and I was really looking at the Raptors, and I
Mm-hmm.
was hoping they were moving on from Pertl because I do not like using him, and I also think that
Mm-hmm.
he's just not. I think he's a good defender, and he can give you a little something on offense, but I also don't think that he was worth the 108 million given to him. I think that was pretty terrible. Like
Yeah.
you're going to pay that much to a guy you can't even have in at the end of games because he can't hit. He can't hit free throws, and it's not like a Giannis situation where he's just the most destructive transition finisher on the planet. It's Jakob Pertl.
Mm-hmm.
Like I I think that he's a good player. You could probably give him a raise a little bit, but it just feels like they way overpaid for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
CJ
Look,
Mc,
I don't know. Jakob Pertl is. I don't know. He's just a guy that always gets brought up for whatever reason. They feel like every team needs a guy like Jakob Pertl. I'm like, not really.
say
Uh,
CJ
Another
to the
move.
Wizards. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just straight up the Pelicans trying to get younger at that position. It feels like
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Poole probably had his best year as a Wizard last year, and they're hoping
Mm-hmm.
that you can maybe build on that. And if you bring him into a different role and don't have him on the ball as much, playing with Zion and guys like Herb and Trey, maybe in a
Mm-hmm.
secondary role you can rediscover that 2022 Warriors for him, but that remains to be seen.
Yeah. And then we just talked about Tim Hardaway Jr. The Pistons found a replacement, Duncan Robinson.
Hate it.
Oh,
I
why?
if you would have told me that the Pistons signed Duncan Robinson, I'd be like,
Mhm.
cool. I like Duncan. I think that's great for them. And then I all of a sudden see like, yeah, by the way, he got 16 million a year. I'm like, oh, okay, I like that
3
a lot
years,
less.
48 million. Yeah.
I don't think Duncan does enough for that contract. Like,
Yeah.
you're paying a pure shooter that. Like, you're not paying him to play defense.
Mm-hmm.
Duncan Robinson, the playmaker, just has never been a thing. you're paying a pure shooter $16 million a year. Like, he can't really drive either. He's not going to finish a ton at the rim. So, to me, in an era, especially like now where you can find 3-point specialists, they're like all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think you could have gotten what you got in Duncan Robinson just for a lot cheaper than $16 million a year.
Yeah, it was a sign and trade, and Detroit ended up trading away
Fontecchio.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure Duncan Robinson will frustrate enough. And if a rumor, this is just the way to end. Like, the ending of this show has turned into people that are just, mind-boggling. So Anthony puts out a rumor the Dolphins have contacted the Falcons about Kyle Pitts. If anybody from the Falcons front office is listening, if the Dolphins call, don't let them off the phone until you work out a deal. Pitts has been a disaster in Atlanta. I don't even care what you get at this point. Make it happen. Let Tua and Michael McDaniel figure out how to make Kyle Pitts an NFL player. It is not going to work in Atlanta. I think it's hilarious that those two teams are talking right now.
I can't think of a more depressing sounding tight end room than Kyle Pitts and Darren Waller. That would be the funniest thing ever. Like, oh my gosh, that I need that to happen now. Just to see how it plays out, because that room would have Darren Waller's obviously had potential and talent.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Pitts has potential and talent, but that would be the most what if tight end room of all time. That would be the funniest thing ever. I need it to happen.
Yeah.
Send Kyle Pitts to Miami for him and Darren Waller to be a duo.
As a Patriots fan, I would love it. Then another move that happened, Trey Mann, 3 years, $24 million, Charlotte Hornets. So,
I mean, it's a fine signing.
Yeah.
I'm just very indifferent about it. I don't think it moves the needle at all. I think it's a fine, budget, signing for Charlotte, and maybe he rediscovers that 3-and-D, that he was with the Clippers. If not, we're at a point in the salary cap where $8 million is, it's not that much money. You could probably still offload it later down the line. So, to me, I'm very indifferent about it. But in all reality, I think it's a good upside signing. Where if it doesn't work out, then plus if you're the Hornets, you're not really worried about competing. So if he's just sitting there eating up $8 million on your salary cap, then probably just doesn't mean a whole lot. So I'm fine with it. I think it's a good upside move for the Hornets.
Right. Yeah. Look, the Hornets are a team that I feel like they have a lot of young talent, but it's just, when is it ever going to turn into anything? And, a lot of that has to fall on LaMelo Ball, who's supposed to be the best player, but he hasn't been healthy and everything like that. But yeah, I think Trey Mann, like you said, $8 million, you'll take that. There's no big deal there. As we do wind down, I did want to get your thoughts on the WNBA as well. With their expansion that they came out with, 3 cities are getting teams by 2030, with the Philadelphia area getting the team 2030. You have what's wrong with Justin Simmons? Why is he still a free agent? I asked that question a lot as well, Anthony. I don't know what it is, because I feel like last time he was a free agent forever until he got signed, and then now it's like it's the same thing all over again. I don't know. I like him a lot. I think he's a really good safety, but I guess teams just forget about him. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but so the WNBA, they're expanding to Detroit, to Cleveland, and then Philadelphia. I guess what are your thoughts on those 3 cities? And is there a city you would like to see them go to after those 3?
Yeah, I'd love to see him come to Milwaukee. Obviously that's
Okay.
a very homer pick. Obviously Milwaukee used to have a WNBA team back in like the 70s, the Milwaukee Doe, but it
Hmm.
didn't last. So I'd love to see them come back.
Wait, they were called the Milwaukee Doe?
Yeah, we had the Bucks and the Doe.
I kind of like that. Okay.
But yeah, no, I like it. I love the expansion. I think it's all universally kind of agreed upon that there's not enough space and there's too much talent in the WNBA. We see a lot of players get drafted and cut in the same year. So
Yeah.
I love that they're expanding. I love the cities they selected, no matter what Sophie Cunningham says. I think people will want to go play in Detroit.
Yeah.
So
There's a fan base you want to get on their bad side. Like the
I
first time she walks in that arena, it's gonna be so great.
it really is. It really is. I listen. I think Sophie Cunningham's been a great player to watch so far. Been a lot of fun, but at the
Mhm.
same time, like, oh, why do we got to take shots at Detroit? That gave me vibes of when Jakeem Noah said, "Who wants to vacation in Cleveland?" I've never heard anybody say they want a vacation in Cleveland.
Yeah.
It gave me that same vibes, but yeah, I think the locations are great. I'm here for it, and I hope they keep expanding to more towns in the future. Like I said, I'd love to see one come here to Milwaukee.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think, well, like you said, despite Sophie Cunningham, the fact that they're expanding, the money is there. They got the new, like the TV deal and everything like that. I think it's really good to see. I would like to see, obviously, as a Boston guy, would like to see a team in Boston. That you have the Connecticut team, that might be a little tricky. Anthony is kind of along my thought process where I think they probably need to hit the South a little bit more. Tampa Bay is not the team, not the city I was thinking of. I was thinking more Nashville because with the kind of growth in that city and everything, with Tennessee, big time college program, I feel like that would be a market for them to hit. Even if they went back to Charlotte, because they used to have the Charlotte Sting, like I feel like that could work. A team in Florida probably needs to happen, but I was thinking like Nashville would be a
I
good city to go to.
say we listen. I would say Memphis, but I don't want to set Stephen A. off. So
Right, yeah. Because I mean, right now, like in the South, you really have the Wings, you have the Dream. That's it. Everything else is up north from there, or maybe even New Orleans. I think that could be interesting, with the WNBA
yeah,
team. Milwaukee may have to help pay for Dame we can't afford. Look, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if where the WNBA goes from there. Maybe they tap into Canada too, like the NBA did it with Toronto. They used to have Vancouver. Maybe WNBA should do Vancouver. I think Vancouver should have a basketball team. I've seen some stuff about how, I mean, look how many athletes come out of like that Portland, Seattle, Vancouver area. Like, you gotta give Vancouver something.
yeah. There we go. What if the Seattle SuperSonics return as a WNBA team?
I wouldn't hate it. I would not hate it.
I just don't think that would happen because I just think that
Yeah.
I feel like one of the expansion teams for the NBA has to be Seattle. Like
Mm-hmm.
it feels like that just has to happen, right? And if not, it's just
Yes.
a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah. People say Virginia, but Washington has a team. Wasn't there a threat of some team moving to Virginia? I can't remember who it was, but yeah, Virginia always is brought up as like some market to tap into as well. Like things like Virginia Beach, that kind of area, but it'd be interesting. Let's see, got this last few moments. There was an NBA player I was thinking about that I forgot to ask about when we were talking NBA. DeAndre Ayton, for whatever reason, like that man has become so popular with the buyout from Portland. Where do you think DeAndre Ayton's next stop is in his career?
Oh gosh, sounds like a Laker already. I'm not even kidding. I think that would be a perfect signing for the Lakers. And the reason why I say that is, well, they need a big that's a role threat. I remember they were rumored to like get Brook Lopez, but also when you're playing with Luka, you want a big that's more of a role threat. And Brook Lopez is not rolling anywhere anytime soon except out to the 3-point line. I think DeAndre Ayton would be kind of the upside play that they need. When you're a team like the Lakers and you have limited assets to rebuild, I think a guy like Ayton is a good guy to maybe get 1 year on a cheaper contract, maybe part of your mid-level exception. And if it works out, great. Maybe you have your center of the future that you can grow and build with Luka for the next 3 or 4 years. If not, you can let him walk. So I think a 1-year contract where you pay Ayton and give him a chance to, earn his next one, I think you'd have a very motivated Ayton. And I think the Lakers could just use the help in the middle. So people keep throwing it out there, but I do think that maybe the Lakers are the best spot for them.
I'm not going to lie. I feel like with some of the big men coming off the board, I mean, I had to pour one out for my guy Luke Cornett going to San Antonio, but look, I saw that contract. I was like, there was not a chance Brad was going anywhere near that. But yeah, for a guy like Luka, look how Lively and Gafford play off of Luka. Ayton can do a lot of the same thing, and like you said, 1-year deal, some short money, because Ayton's a guy's gonna have to kind of rebuild some type of value on the open market anyway. He would probably sign just about anything at this point. And for him, the Lakers situation is much better than Portland's right now. Like, why not? He's a rim runner. He can do all that. Sure.
By the way, ESPN's graphic on Luke Cornett was the funniest thing to come out of free agency so far. Just Luke Cornett, strengths, floor spacer. Like Kyle, did you know about Luke Cornett, the floor spacer? Because I think I missed that watching Celtics games.
He actually, what the crazy thing is, when he was at Vanderbilt, he was a big that shot the three. When he's with the Knicks, he shot the three, and then he got to Boston, didn't shoot the three anymore. So I don't know if that was just a choice. Maybe Mazzulla and Stevens, like that's the role they put him in. Like he has shooting ability, but he just does not do it anymore.
Yeah,
ESPN knows something that we don't, and he's gonna, bring it out of the bag in San Antonio. I don't know.
No, and that it's funny because you do mention it, but he hasn't shot more than 2 threes a game since 2019.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's a consistent part of his bag anymore, because I can't imagine if he had this floor spacing ability that, Mazzulla and company wouldn't try to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. That's why I found it funny. It's okay, yeah, I shot the three at Vanderbilt to New York, but that was also literally 10 years ago. So I don't think he has that in him consistently anymore. If he does, great. That'd be awesome. But
yeah,
I guess we'll see. They paid him big bucks for a reason.
Yep. I mean, I remember 1 3 he made. It was in the corner against the Bulls, and I was like, oh, there it is. But that was the last time. Talking about your Celtics losing big men left to right. That's the casualty of the second apron. I mean, I'm waiting to see the news on Al Horford. Fortunately, the GOAT Al probably won't be back. I mean, there's a small part of me that thinks Al might just retire. He's 38, 39, uprooting, going to another city. He may not be into that. I feel like that's why he's really thinking about what he wants to do next part of his career, if there is one. And the Celtics just don't have the money for him. So, yeah. But there are teams that are interested. The Warriors, I believe, are interested in him.
Oh,
I wouldn't hate seeing Allen with Golden State.
I think any contender would absolutely be interested in Al. I think at this point, just up to Al if he wants to go through another run.
Right.
Which, if I were him, I would strongly consider retiring.
Yeah.
Love Al, but he is getting up there in age. And do you want to go through the rigors of, you kind of alluded to, moving, going to deal, through all the rigors of a regular season with a completely new team you're probably just going to be with for 1 year before you retire? think it's a very real possibility that we've seen the last of the GOAT in the NBA.
Yeah. 2 titles of Florida, wins one with the Celtics. Like, a man's going to be a Hall of Famer. Because obviously, Basketball Hall of Fame, they take your college career into consideration.
Absolutely.
Hard to deny him. Back-to-back champion of Florida. So, the GOAT will have his day. And I'll be there front and center when he, gives a little speech, and I'll be like, you can keep your Jordan and LeBron. That's the GOAT right there. You're watching them. Yeah, so look, as we get out of here, Brett, let the people know what they can look forward to, I guess, coming up next here on Wire to Wire Network.
Yeah, in about like 27 minutes or 30 minutes, you can catch Mo Betta and I on the Meaty Boys podcast, where we talk professional wrestling. So I'm ready. I got my wrestling shirt on. So definitely, if you're a big fan of wrestling, make sure to tune in a half hour, and we'll talk some wrestling with you guys.
All right, there you go. For me, I will be back on Wire to Wire on Friday with Jory, who was in the chat. Passion and Precision. You guys will have to tune in because we have some. Yeah, we're gonna have some, final burns and everything like that, and yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Guarantee you all will enjoy it. Can't be doing that. I'm trying to. I got you, Trajan. But yeah, so make sure you guys come back next Tuesday. Look, everybody's gonna be waiting to see what we'll have to say about more free agency news next week. And like I said, make sure you guys are here when we do our quarterback rankings. We will use you guys' opinion as well. We'll rank all 32 starting quarterbacks next week. So that should be a lot of fun. So until then, for myself and Brett, make sure you guys come back for Meaty Boys. We're out of here. Enjoy the rest of your night. All right. Bye.